I picked up a weird instrument that I bought strictly for research purposes. And I tend to do this a lot. I tend to buy instruments that are unique in some manner that I'm going to learn from. And this is one of those instruments. I picked it up on eBay for $55. And it's a type of lute, 7 strings with adjustable frets. And that's why I bought it. Let's take a look. So this was broken and it needs a repair. I believe there's some tuning pegs that require some type of repair. And this is the instrument right out of the box. This is what I purchased on eBay. This was purchased because it made me look twice. I knew when I first saw this that I could learn something from it. Now, it doesn't look like an authentic Turkish instrument or some vintage instrument from Persia or from the Middle East. It looks like it was actually made by someone probably here locally in America, but that's not the point. The point is I saw some unique features on here that I thought I could actually learn from and incorporate. In particular, the slot here on the fretboard with the adjustable frets. And these frets are just dowels and they're actually on there with just simple brass screws. And that concept was uniquely clever, but also very simple. So something that could be reproducible, something that was accessible. And I love this headstock. Like this headstock was such a unique design too. I thought I could learn from it. One of the pegs is broken. There's another peg here that's missing, another peg here. And I'm gonna take a look in the box to see if these missing pegs are in there or if I'm gonna have to actually machine them and make my own. But look at this, what a unique instrument. All right, so far so good. I popped 2 strings already. These are clearly old strings. And I found the other 2 pegs here for the 6th and 7th string. So the nut only goes to 5 strings, and then these here are the 5th and 6th. Now, one of the tuning pegs is broken, so I have to replace that, but I think these are just off-the-shelf tuning pegs. I don't think there's anything special about them. So right now there's actually just 2 strings on here that are functioning because I popped the rest. And the frets are actually really cool because you can actually push down on the string to change the pitch. I'm sure that's some kind of technique I can use eventually, but I want to see this with 7 strings on it. We might have to do a little bit of research because I don't really know what gauge of strings to use on these type of instruments, or what strings should be on these top. Are they drone strings? Are they not? I think it's kind of like a banjo maybe. All right, some close-up shots of this guy. So obviously the star of the show here are these adjustable frets. That's why I bought this guitar. When I saw the pictures of this, I could immediately tell that these were dowels, simple wooden dowels, and very simple brass screws with washers and then a nut here. The construction of this neck is actually quite beautiful, and I love this sort of kind of minimal look that this particular instrument has, and I love this slot here in the neck. It just looks so cool. I already have a lot of ideas just from looking at this instrument, and that's the whole purpose of buying it. The headstock is actually quite beautiful. Another reason that I bought this was this caught my eye. Now this is 2 pieces, so right here there's a seam, and then there's a 3rd piece here, which is this veneer, which is about 2 millimeters thick. It's basically on top. The body itself is adorable. It's got these kind of 2 cute little eyes and a sad little smile. This also is terribly unique, and I looked all over Google. So I did a reverse Google search to see if I could find who built this guitar. I could not find out who made this guitar. And I haven't even looked in with a flashlight in here yet, but I doubt there's any type of markings as to who built this and who constructed it. And with these adjustable frets, this allows you to not be trapped into any kind of like Western style tuning. You can go microtonal with this if you wanted to. So what's interesting about the construction here is that you have this side panel, you have the bottom, you have the top, and then there's sort of another piece here. It's like a fourth piece. I'm not quite sure what's going on with that, but it goes all around the front too. And then on the back, it's a thinner piece. It goes all the way around the back. There's no bracing, but there's a solid block that is about probably 9 or 10 millimeters thick. And it's about this wide, and it's going all along the back. I looked online all over the place and couldn't find anything that even resembled this. I assume that it's very similar to the Middle Eastern ouds or the setars out of Iran, Persia, Chinese pipas. There's also a couple of Afghanistan instruments from Central Asia, rababs. I clearly don't know anything about sitars or any other instruments coming out of India. But this is also reminiscent of those stringed instruments. I mean, I get it, like, you know, these dowels are just glued on very sloppily. This is just standard hardware you can get pretty much anywhere, but I paid $55 for it, and it's inspirational to me. This isn't terribly elegant. It works. It's very reminiscent of like cigar box guitars, but we're going to find a more elegant solution for terminating those strings. We'll clean up those little sound holes too. They're a little rough on the inside. Really, I wouldn't replace a bridge if it's a vintage instrument, but I can't date this instrument in any way. I don't know if it's vintage or not. I'll keep the bridge, but I think we're going to replace it. Maybe on second thought, I'll keep it. Maybe I just need to clean it up, sand the top to get rid of some of those marring notches, and then maybe restain it, and that should do it. I'm keeping these brass bolts and nuts. They already have such a great patina to them, and I love that dull brass color. It just works really well with this instrument. In fact, come to think of it, why don't we just replace those dowels with some brass dowels? That would be killer. This would look so nice. For the veneer, I'm not sure why they didn't just go all the way to the top. They start at the nut, and then they terminate the veneer right there. Really, more elegant solution would be just to go all the way to the top, veneer the whole thing. Maybe they were going for sort of a two-piece look. I mean, it does have a look to it where the headstock definitely stands out from the rest of the neck, so maybe that was by design and not just being lazy. I think this is an interesting addition to my collection. I'm very happy with the purchase, considering I only paid $55 for this. I actually paid more in shipping than I paid for the actual instrument. So I bought some replacement tuning pegs, and these are actually made out of ebony, and they're for a violin or viola or cello, I can't remember which. But what's important is the diameter of the bottom. So the original ones that came on this instrument are 7 mil diameter. These are exactly 7 mil diameter, so it's a tiny bit shorter, but not by much. And they're way nicer. So the original one that broke doesn't even look like maple. Not sure what it was, so I don't know what these are made out of, but some kind of wood. These are actually ebony. And I think they're going to be a good replacement. And I already test fitted them, they work really well. But the problem is, the string hole on this guy is really low. And on the original one, it's quite high about in the middle. So we need to put new holes a little bit higher. Let's go ahead and do that. And I'm just putting a little indentation there so the drill bit doesn't skip. And I'll use 3 of the old ones for the last 3 pegs on the bottom of the headstock. So the first thing we're going to do is remove these brass tailpiece screws. They were essentially just screwed in pretty much all the way down, very, very low. The original strings had loops and they were just looped around them. And I think that these brass screws fit the build. They have that sort of look that fits in with the whole sort of holistic view of this build. But I think we can do something a little bit better, and maybe not more elegant, but something that's going to be a little bit more secure than that. I was thinking about using headless clamps. You can imagine 7 of these. They would actually perform a better job than those brass screws. All right, so we'll clean this up and then plug those holes. I installed the headless clamps to use as the tailpiece for this instrument. I had these on hand and they're going to do the job better than anything else, but they don't quite look the part. This is a very traditional instrument and these modern pieces don't quite look right. So what I decided to do was make a cover piece. So I'm going to machine a wooden cover that hides the actual tailpiece. And I think that's going to be the best option. So it allowed me to use the bridge. It gives me the nice break angle. And then this will be covered by an ornamental piece of wood that's quite beautiful with a nice little shape that complements the shape of the body. I think that's the best option. And even though I would love to do something with brass and pins, I just think this is going to be the easiest, quickest method to get this instrument up and running. So now is the point where we get to string this up. But the issue is I don't know what kind of instrument this is, nor do I know what kind of instrument this was based off of. What I do know is that it has 7 tuning pegs. So I need 7 strings. I found this set. This set here is for a sitar, but it's only a set for the 7 strings. It doesn't include the very many sympathetic strings that a sitar also has. So it means I can actually string this up sort of like a sitar, but without the sympathetic string. First, second, third, fifth, sixth, and then this one, which would be the 6th and 7th, I believe are identical strings. So I did some research and I found 2 tunings that I could possibly use, which are essentially the same. This is the Ravi Shankar style, and this one's a bit more traditional. And we can actually tune to these, but based on the tension of this scale length, I'll choose what key we're in. So I'm not worried about that part. We'll tune to whatever feels good with the tension, but we can actually use my research here and string this up based on what I've learned. So I 3D printed these tuning beads. Typically these are made out of bone, and I didn't want to use bone, nor did I want to waste time trying to fashion bone beads. You could buy these online too. They're about $11, but I didn't want to spend $11. So I just modeled these very quickly and then 3D printed them. I don't know which strings should have tuning beads, but I'm going to put them on all the strings. Cool. All right, this is awesome. These tuning beads work really well. So I can get, a close enough tuning with the peg, and then I can slide the tuning bead to fine tune. So we're just going to do the rest of these the same way. So this was a really cool project, and I'm glad I got this instrument. I'm glad I found it on eBay. I tend to do that often. I look on eBay and I find those really great deals for really unique novel instruments. I don't know who built this. I have no clue about its history, and I really don't know what it's based off of, but I can make an assumption that it's based off several really classic traditional instruments, including a sitar, because of the 7 strings. So we did have 7 main strings, 2 of which are drones. It fits the tuning almost identically and exactly, but that's just my guess. Now, because of this option to adjust the frets, you have quite a few different variations you can get into, especially with like microtonal options. But what I did was I decided and landed on a 25.5-inch scale. I know that's kind of boring, right? You have all the opportunity to do whatever you want and you choose a traditional 25.5-inch scale, but that's what I did. Because we have a floating bridge and movable frets, we could have chosen pretty much anything. So I did start off at 24 inches and I kind of moved to 25, but I settled on 25.5 because I liked where the bridge actually landed. So from the nut to that bridge is basically 25.5. And then I adjusted the frets. I moved the frets and I measured each and every one of them based on the StewMac calculator and put them where they needed to be. It's kind of like, I know, dumb to make this orb like a guitar, but that's what I did. And I have the nice little cosmetic bridge cover there. So even though I do have headless clamps holding down the actual strings, that cover does cover those clamps and it makes it look really traditional. And I did actually oil the whole guitar. So I sanded the entire guitar down to 220, and then I used monocoat. So the Rubio monocoat on there, and it smells great. It feels nice and smooth. It's just a great feel. And then obviously a part that I sort of skipped was the tuning beads. So these are fine tuning beads that all sitars have. Sitars also have fine tuning beads at the bridge for some of the other strings, but I only use the 5 main strings here. So these have tuning beads. And essentially these tuners I never have to touch. I just have to move these guys here and it works out really well. These guys are actually easy to tune because they're just basically the same note. It's just a C and a C, and then they're basically like 5 C's on this guitar. It's mostly just drones. And the main strings are these kind of like 4 bottom ones here. Now what you don't see off camera is that I do have tape to help me with the frets. So I felt weird because I didn't want to add fret side markers on here because of the option to move the frets. So if I decided to put like actual like side markers, then they're stuck there. And if someone wanted to move this, or if eventually if I wanted to move these frets to make a different scale or make it microtonal, those would throw me off. So I just use tape for now. And that's how I'm actually getting around this fretboard. But other than that, it's a really cool, oh, this is magnets, by the way. So that's on there with magnets, which is also really cool. But anyway, this was a super fun project. I'm really grateful to have this in my collection now. It's such a cool instrument. And now it's wanting me to get into sitars. I think I really want a sitar now. Like I really want an actual traditional one because this is a blast to play. And what I want to do is I want to have like some backing tracks. I want to go the whole route and really get into sitars if I can find one that's affordable. And if I can find one that's actually made in India, like a traditional one. The other thing that I wanted to mention was this is an inspiration for future builds because I always had the idea of like flat necks. Like for me, it's like, I think in my future is all flat necks, no contours. And this just feels really comfortable. The other thing is I always had this idea of just using like just normal off the shelf, like stainless steel bolts as frets. Like, why can't we just use that? And this is a really cool way to actually implement and deploy something like that. So a lot of really great ideas from this instrument. Again, I don't know who built it, but it's mine now and it's part of the collection. Hope you like this. Hope you were inspired. Thanks for watching. Take it easy.